Chris Mason, I think we did it. I think we did it. Hey, we are trying out a new software, and we got it to go. We got it to go, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Recruiting with Chris Mason. Basically the Monday night podcast of this whole thing with Sooners Intel. So, got myself, Chris with a K, Horns Down Podcast, Horns Down Forever. And you got Mr. Sooners 360 himself, Chris Mason, who's here to give recruiting notes. Excuse me, no fluff, no none of that. Just getting straight to the business, right? People, look, as we always say, we're here for a good time, not a long time. Well, we're not here to necessarily discuss what happened in Tennessee or what's going to happen this Saturday, which we may dibble and dabble a little bit into that because some of that touches upon what we're going to be talking about tonight. But Chris Mason, how you doing, man? You doing all right?
I am doing good, and we have good Sooner recruiting news to talk about.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Let me go to my notes real quick. Um, go to my notes real quick. So obviously, I think where we should start at is the new verbal with the running back Jackson Stokes. Think 2027, right?
That is correct. From Chatsworth, California, Sierra Canyon. For those who don't follow recruiting obsessively like I do, that is a big time school that has big time players almost every year going to Power Four conferences. Just a loaded team. So he's from a big time program. So he's about 5'9", 190, and he visited for the Ole Miss game, and then he saw OU play again for the Tennessee game as a Vols visitor. Really, the way OU closed on this recruiting is a combination of DeMarco Murray and a heavy assist from front office superstar Stacy Ford, who, if you don't recall, used to work at UCLA, has connections up and down the West Coast, and we're definitely seeing. I think this is the biggest example, Chris, of how this front office staff is really helping and driving recruiting, high school recruiting. It's not just evaluations and film, and then handing it over to the coaches to make the personal contacts and the relationship building. Stacy Ford is out there building recruiting relationships with top flight kids from the West Coast for the Sooners. He's Ford has sort of old purpose back kind of label. He's ranked as a 3-star right now. I think that's probably way low. Greg Biggins, who just joined Rivals on 3, is the West Coast guy I trust the most for the last 20 to 25 years in West Coast recruiting. He thinks Stokes is the best back on the West Coast, the best back in California. So I think Stokes could easily move into the top 250 range. 4-star. He's got a 10.83 100-meter time, and on film he's got acceleration, he's got burst, he's making people miss, he's got some twitch, he's got some juice to him. This is a good-looking running back. OU wants 2 running backs for 2027. We'll get to the fact that they're trying to get 2 running backs. We've already talked about the fact that they're trying to get a second running back for 2026. But they're going to go after 2 running backs for 27, and they've got the first one. And the next one probably will be a bigger back. So I got some names we could talk about if we want to, but I think this is a big pickup and is driving home the fact that West Coast recruiting could be very sweet to OU. And we'll get to some of those details in this in this Q&A, could be very sweet to the Sooners.
So Chris Mason, you know that if we're going to name the kid and he's already verbal or whatnot, you got to try to give him a comp. We need a comp.
Five nine 190, super speed, super hard to tackle.
Sproles. That's who. I mean, Deuce Vaughn, guys like that.
He's a little bigger than that, but that's not far off. That's not far off.
Mm.
We better take care of this. Put Unks. Put your Unks Message up and I'll deliver the bad news. He just verbal to Miami about an hour ago.
Yeah.
DeAnthony Lafayette dumped LSU, already with the Canes as of an hour ago. I'm not sure how heavily OU was after him. Um, After they have offered the kid we'll talk about today, we need to talk a little bit about OU's new D line offer, which I think probably made their pursuit of Mr. Anthony a little lukewarm. So,
I hear you.
so Stokes, he's a really good all-purpose back. So maybe TJ Pleasure with with much more wiggle and speed for a name to the pass. Maybe, maybe little Brendan Clay action for those going back in the Wayback Machine.
so so a guy who has potential to who could potentially be like a one, but is a great depth piece, somebody that probably contributes, right?
And you could flex him out, do some two back stuff. He has return capabilities. He could easily be the complementary change of pace back you use, third down back. He's a very good wide receiver out of the backfield. So he's kind of got some of those things.
Said Keith Ford a good comp.
Nah, Ford was a bigger kid.
Chris Mason, let's go ahead and get into these new 2026. Let's go D line first instead of O line, but we'll as soon as you get done with the D line and we talk about that, let's go right into the O line.
Yeah, so Wednesday night, right before I did my podcast, I recorded my podcast. OU offered Malike Franklin from Daphne, Alabama, name I'd never heard of before, kind of out of nowhere. And he's 6'6", probably 250, 255, maybe 260. He looks huge on film, Chris. And his film is like, okay, at the 42-second mark of his midseason film this year, I was honestly afraid, Chris, he killed the quarterback he was sacking because he looked like he basically put his arms around him and kind of destroyed him. So he's a monster coming off the edge. He's got a massive frame, big wingspan. I think he could easily be 6'6", 275, 280. So he could give OU that big defensive end that they like. Which when you add to the three other guys they've got committed, you've got Krul, who's kind of that R. Mason Thomas outside line, NFL outside linebacker, college 4-3 defensive end. You've got Norman, who's a little more. He's like 6'5". He'll probably be 6'5", 245, 250 in college. And then you've got Matt Nelson, very similar, long, explosive. This guy gives you something different. He brings something different to the defensive end group. Where if you want to do some three-man line looks, he probably could handle the edge there. That'd be a 3-4 defensive end, but he could be a big defensive end. In the 4-3 looks, I mean, Taylor Wine's 270, PJ's 265, 270. So he fits more maybe in that bigger mold, allowing the other guys to be more of the speed defensive ends in OU scheme. So he somehow has an Ole Miss offer, a Mississippi State offer, and an OU offer, unranked in Rivals, unranked for 247, no stars, nothing. So. But you watch his film, and I'm like, how in the world does a 6'6", 260-pound athlete playing defensive end at a very good Alabama high school that produces talent annually go under the radar? So it's a little baffling to me. But OU's made an offer. Looks like they're going to they probably will get him in for the LSU game if things continue along that way. His social media follows strongly indicate that he's liking what OU's bringing. He's from Alabama. Todd Bates has lots of connections there. I think Bates is the one that made the offer, but obviously Bates and Chavez, are very much tag team recruiting wise. And I think this is a guy you could redshirt for a year, and then you'd have a big defensive end in your scheme for more defensive end depth. So I like this offer.
Say the name again for everybody.
Yeah, he is Malike. That is Malique Franklin from Daphne, Alabama.
Got you, got you, got
And
you.
his stats are pretty good for the first 7 games this season too. And you watch his film, he is a big dude coming off the edge. And I'm telling you, there's a couple of quarterbacks I was kind of afraid for their lives with the way he tackled and hit them because he's a massive guy. So
So
this is
I was just going to jump in and say, so he's basically the Taylor Wine of kind of like this class, where he's kind of a late find, late gem guy that you can develop into what you want there at that spot.
definitely. I think that's a good example of kind of what OU's looking for. Definitely, probably this is Nagy pinging. Maybe this is Todd Bates sending some film to Nagy. Nagy coming back and saying, "Whoa, I love this guy on film. Let's go off for him." And Todd Bates goes, "That's what I thought." Or something, or the opposite way. Nagy stumbled upon this film, sent it to Bates. Bates hit his Alabama connections and his connections in Bama said, "Yeah, this guy's under the radar. We have no idea why. Old Miss has offered him. Georgia Tech has offered him, but we don't know why he doesn't have any stars." And they attacked it from that way. So I don't know which way, but when you look at who he is, he's it's NFL measurables, Chris. It's the same story as we see with Daniel Norman, Matt Nelson, and the two guys we're about to talk about as well on the O line. These are athletes who need technique development, but you can't coach size and you can't coach speed. So this is where this fits in with what Nagy has done previously at other spots where we've moved away from some guys and Nagy's found some guys. So he definitely fits into this whole Nagy schema of where I want NFL measurable guys. I'm now pretty confident, especially on the D line, that I've got coaches that can take low salary cap players, to use the NFL term, and develop them to build out the roster. So I mean, obviously, you know, you have to have a mix of these guys in a recruiting class, and Nagy's obviously targeted some of these guys who are late developers, good senior year film for scholarship offers, and that leads right into the next two guys if you're ready to talk about them. But if there's anybody got any questions about Franklin, happy to answer them. But otherwise, we can move on to the two
O-line.
offense to the O line.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So you've heard me talk about I want OU to make more O line offers. I think OU needs at least 2 more offensive linemen in this class. They walked away from Daniel McMorris, and 2 guys came to the forefront. Sooner Scoop kind of identified one first, and then the other name I'd seen on some message boards, but Parker Thune talked about him on their message board. The first one is Jonas Muya. He's 6'7", 6'8", 290 pounds from Indiana. He appears to be coming for the LSU game. OU's biggest competition appears to be Minnesota, and obviously he's from Big Ten region, so that's why. And on film, Chris, he's a superb athlete. He's got a lot of potential. In my mind, he has a bigger, thicker frame than McMorris. I'm afraid, a little bit afraid when I look at some McMorris film that he's kind of so lean, I'm not sure he can bulk up. I got no doubts that this Moya kid can carry 320, 330 if OU wants him to. And he's very athletic. He's still raw, but he's physical. No one gets anywhere near his quarterback in pass rushing. His technique might be a little raw there. Gabe Eichert might be at a point 100 things wrong with it, and he's probably right. But the guy's so athletic with such a big wingspan that no one gets near the quarterback. He's able to recover and use his wingspan to fend guys off. He can pull. He's got enough speed that he could pull, do some GT counter stuff at the tackle position. He needs development, but the things he needs work on, Bill can fix and Bill can develop. But he's just such a good athlete at offensive tackle. And as my understanding is, he just transitioned to football from basketball. Like many guys, someone sat him down and told him, your ceiling in basketball is here. if you switch to offensive tackle in football, it's here. And he did that. And I mean, he's a really good looking guy. His offensive line teammates might all be 6 foot or 5'10" or 5'11", because when he's standing next to them, Chris, it's like, okay, where's Jonas Moa? Oh, that would be the guy towering over all of the other guys on the offensive line. So it's a good offer. He's got a lot of developmental potential. I think McMorris's floor might be higher, but I think Muya's ceiling is higher. Then they offered from Friendswood, Texas, Noah Beebe, I believe it is, or Bebe. He was a tight end last year at like 6'4", 250. Bulked up and is now playing inside at playing tackle, but he probably is a center or a guard for the Sooners. He's 6'4", 290. Again, super athletic. You watch him running downfield, and he's hitting people. He's all go, all juice. He's not holding back. There's a play where he's running after his running back, and he's hauling ass to get a play. Sooner Scoop has some senior video of him. He looks really good at tackle. Can move inside, I think, to guard. I watched his tight end film. He's a very good athlete. And Chris, you could even use him as like a big blocking tight end, I think, from the hop. Put him on the field, put him at the end of the line in short yardage and stuff like that, because you could even sneak him out and sneak him out and have him catch a short pass on the goal line, because nobody would think he can catch. He can catch. He's a good athlete.
So he's like Proctor, huh? they're using Proctor all over the field for Bama right now, but yeah.
Yeah, well, he ain't 360, but he can easily carry 310, 315, maybe a little more than that. You could obviously move him. As your uncle said, big frame, lots of athletic stuff with that kid. He could easily carry 315, 320, but be physical and athletic. And again, this is the kind of stuff we know. What's he missing? He's raw. He needs some help with technique. What can Bill do? Bill can work and develop those guys.
Yeah.
What can you not do? Make guys faster, make guys more athletic, right? And he's physical. The kid's got a physicality to his game.
That's why that, to me, contrary to belief, for those who still kind of doubt the process, I think that it's basically a match made in heaven with the way that BV and crew want to recruit, the way that Nagy wants to recruit, and the way that Bill likes to recruit from time to time. He will go get the guys that are semi-polishing, and he will finish polishing them up. But I think a lot of people on the staff, which I really like, it's as simple as I can teach a freak athlete how to be a football player, but I can't teach a football player how to necessarily be a freak athlete. You get what I'm saying? With some of the different things that they want to do and on both sides of the ball, especially defensively with the peel backs, being able to drop back, being limber enough. I mean, hell, look at Trace Ford. Trace Ford coming off of 2 serious knee injuries and is out there playing cheetah for us last year. It's things like that where you say, like, this staff wants to go get those kids that are raw. I mean, look at PJ Adebawore. It looks like things are finally starting to click for him. Not necessarily the 5-star superstar that we thought he would be thus far, but the verdict is still out for him. Obviously, next year will be a big year for him, but things are clicking, right? But again, we knew coming out of high school, he was still really raw. He was still learning the game. And so I think it's things where you can stay healthy, stay on the field, and that's what they want to do. Howland is a prime example for Beatonbow, former tight end. He knew it was going to take him a while to get on the field, but he developed, and he's definitely been more than serviceable for us. So for sure.
Yeah. When healthy and allowed to focus on one position, Howland's has been fine. It's just we caught a bad ankle injury at the wrong time. One guy I talked to who watches quite a bit of film, and we go back and forth. The comp he used on the Muya kid was Tyler Guyton, watching his high school film. He's like, I think this is that kind of an athlete that just needs some development. And and Tyler Guyton was a tight end defensive lineman in high school. Went to TCU, played tight end. They brought him in as their sixth offensive lineman, tight end, and then he hit the portal, and that's where Bill kind of snagged him and said, okay, you're not a tight end, you're a tackle. Let's get you to Norman, and the rest is a first round draft pick, starting for the Dallas Cowboys. So Abibe is definitely that has that tight end, the bulked up tight end to offensive lineman, path is just filled with elite guys in the NFL. Oh, that guy was a tight end in high school. Now he's an elite tight end. That was an elite guy was a tight end in high school. Now he's an elite offensive lineman. So that's constantly kind of occurring. So I think they're both good additions. If you can add these guys, like I said, they need a little time this season. But we've got three freshmen starting for us now. We got two guys coming in Noah Best and Deacon Schmidt, that do not need that level of seasoning. If you watch their senior year film, they're both in the 315, 320 range, and they are killing folks
Yeah.
in their highlight reels. Both their high school teams are dropping 300, 400-yard rushing days on folks. So you've got two guys, I think, in Schmidt and Best, that will quickly get in the two deep. Then if you've got two guys who need to develop a little bit, I think you can make that work. Then you bring in a 2027 class behind them, where you've got guys like Caden Penny, Cooper Hackett, who can then step in, who can be ready to step in their second year, possibly when Foje and Fasusi possibly have developed their way into being first round offensive tackles. So
And that's the thing that's really interesting. I think that obviously, if things go the way we want it to go, we're going to be talking El Sooner football for a while, right? Like current football. But I think next year is going to be huge, for a lot of guys, especially on that offensive line, because kind of where's that separation? Where's that line in the sand? Because you still got to think, um, you know, out goes Nuewu, but in comes an Afalava or a Akin Kume. You got guys like that are still waiting to get there. What happens with Ozada? What happens with Howland? What happens with the Jakes? Right? I mean, it's a lot. That's got a lot of shuffling that's about to happen, and you're about to get talent. You give them a lot more talent. Then also you got to factor in the transfer portal, what you give and what you take. So offensive line is going to be great, great moving forward, in my opinion, especially in the direction we're moving in. But I mean, Chris Mason, I think you have to be excited at the fact that it feels like Bill is doing what you want him to do, which is take as many high school
O line
O
as you
linemen
can.
as you possibly can, just to make sure that we're not doing what we were doing in the Raleigh regime, which is just recruiting maybe one or two per year, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, Brent's first year, due to the Riley whatever, we only signed two guys, right? The
Yeah.
two Jakes, and I'm not knocking Jake Taylor, but he's basically been hurt for the last 2 years. Sexton has been hurt nearly every year he's been at OU. So we need different guys. We need developmental guys, and if one of Mua or a BB, if OU signs them, doesn't work out, but the other guy does, then that's a win, right? You got to play the percentages of having players in your on your program. I do like, Chris, that especially at O line, when kids develop later, get bigger, you sometimes bigger kids as juniors max out, and those guys, when they get to college, don't end up being as good as we all think they're going to be. I do like OU looking at two athletes who've just picked up the O line, are playing well as seniors, and have a lot of development runway.
Mhm. All right, all right. Let's go ahead and move to these to the Taven Epps, and then there's another 27 kid that I know you wanted to talk about. Let me get his name real quick. Juju Johnson.
Okay. So Taven Epps visited OU for the Ole Miss game. He is a top 100 2027 linebacker, edge player. He's from California. He's 6'4", 220. He may be a little bigger than that. Looking at the photo of him with Brent when he visited, and he was committed to Texas when he visited OU. So he apparently had a great visit to OU, and he has now decommitted from Texas. He has a lot of connections with front office superstar Stacey Ford, and I think there's a strong chance Epps could be back for a second game before this year turns out. And I think there's a very good chance that OU, if he waits until the spring, which is kind of what he talked about in an interview, we'll see if that happens. I just think it's the timing of his decommitment after the OU visit is very encouraging for the Sooners. And this kid on film he's like Brent's ideal. Brent just I'm sure just looks at his film and goes, I can do everything with this kid because he's good in coverage, but he's also a monster off the edge. So you literally could play him in some of the Kendall Daniels cheetah stuff we've been seeing and do some 3-man line look with him on the edge and do all kinds of stuff with him, play him just flat out at defensive end sometimes. I've heard someone say Micah Parsons kind of film.
Ooh.
In terms of his versatility, which of course makes you stand up and say hello from that perspective. And his film's really good. When I heard OU was making a move here, I was like, he's going to Texas. Can we dent that? And then he visited Norman and seemed to really click with the OU staff and guys. He's he's in top 75 range. But Chris, when you think about like the value of a kid that could be 6'4", 245, and can drop back into coverage very easily, cover tight ends, cover backs, but also is a monster off the edge. When you think about that kind of skill set, some defensive coordinators wouldn't know what to do with that, but we know Brent could pull every ounce of dominating play out of a kid like this.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about 4 years of this kid as opposed to just 1 year of Kendall Daniels. This is, and he's a huge kid. He's got a massive frame. So, he could end up just that defensive end and just be, and you're like, well, I love the fact he can drop back, but he's such a killer off the edge that, we're just going to keep him there. So it would be very interesting there. So a name I haven't really followed that much because I wasn't really sure where OU was with him. His name's Juju Johnson from legendary power program Long Beach Poly. He's a cornerback. He's 5'11", 170. He was hurt this year, but before he was hurt, he was in like a top. ESPN right now haven't really re-ranked him. Chris, they had him as I think the number 17 player in the nation. His top 5 is major programs with OU in there, and there's definitely some talk that OU leads for this kid, and I'm pretty sure he's visiting for the LSU game, and that could be a situation to watch in terms of a verbal. I think when he gets back healthy again, he's going to be right in that 5-star kind of territory at cornerback.
Yeah, I know that kid's been getting a lot. I know he has a lot of buzz, and I think we talked about him on a couple of occasions. So, no, yeah, that kid's name. When I saw you put that in the text, I was like, oh, we're talking about him again. Okay.
So Chatsworth, California, Long Beach Poly. We have a kid from Bosco this year, right? Odom is from Bosco. We're a Meta D kid and someone from, like Fair Oaks, away from just having a lot of the big time California programs having Sooners becoming future Sooners. So that's a place you kind of like to be from that perspective. Dane Weber, the California quarterback, will be in town next week for the Missouri game.
Okay.
He's had a great year out in California, throwing the ball. He's running the ball. He's got a lot of that dual threat kind of Bo Bentley, Mateer kind of game to him. So we'll see if OU makes an offer there. There are some other quarterbacks I think that OU's starting to get interested in to make some offers for 2027.
We got it. I mean, we might as well go ahead and ask it now. I mean, what are we? I mean, Peyton Houston, is that still on the table, or is that kind of?
I don't think there's anything there. I think he's kind of he wants to see. I mean, he doesn't have to sign until until December 2026. So he's waiting to see who the next LSU coach is. He's sticking with the home team and waiting to see who the next guy is.
I mean, he can always wait until you can always wait until the spring too, right?
He can wait as long as he wants.
Yeah,
The only question is right now he has the only actionable QB offer for the Sooners.
yeah.
I think by the time December rolls around, he's going to have three or four other kids who could flip like that. So if he wants to stick with LSU, no problem. But 3 months from now, LSU hires some guy he doesn't like, and he's calling OU to say, "Hey, I'm ready to verbal." OU might be like, "Yeah, we picked up a kid 3 months ago. We're
Well,
not we're not taking two QBs."
well. Speaking. Well. Staying on that same line of thinking, where's the Pettit kid?
Well, somehow Wisconsin beat Washington, even though their punter was their leading passer
Yeah,
with 18 yards. Okay. And obviously, the Wisconsin AD, in a baffling decision, I think, from them, has come out and says that we're doubling down on Fickle. We're going to give him more money, give him more support. So I think it's going to take a little bit more rocking back and forth for OU to get the Pettit kid away from Wisconsin. I mean, I'm still stunned that like a Florida kid is this wrapped up in being in the frozen tundra
uh,
for to play football in, and at a program that cannot pass the football.
all I know is this right here. As Johnny Taylor said once upon a time, it's cheaper to keep her, especially with all this mess that's going on. Wisconsin is right now. Wisconsin is pretty much at the same level as like a Oklahoma State hiring. It's pushed down the line. It's not in the top five hirings. It's too
But they,
many
they
people.
can find. I mean, the problem is Fickle is it's not working.
It's just not working.
So I mean,
But
they're just delaying. They're going to waste money next year, and they're just delaying
the
firing
inevitable.
him. I
That's true.
mean, and it's. I mean, we've talked about it, and they're really good. I mean, not everybody has to hire Lane Kiffin, right? There are
Mhm.
lots of good coaches out there that could make Wisconsin better quicker. There's lots of good guys out there that could do a good job at Wisconsin. It's just not working. We all thought it was a great hire. We all thought it was going to work. It just hasn't. And doubling down on, it's like, I don't know, it's like throwing 80 grand into your house that's not selling, thinking that, you put more money into it and it's going to sell. It's like, dude, it's in a bad location in a bad part of town. Cut your losses and just get what you can.
No, I hear you. It's Wisconsin may be due for a culture change for a little while. They obviously, I know they want to pound the ball, they want to play Big Ten style football, but it may be time to really go to a true spread attack for a while and go ahead and let those kids get it. Let's jump into some questions real quick. Scott Walker, he's asking, are we getting any Bixby kids?
Scott, where does Caden Penny play?
Yeah, yeah.
He's a Bixby kid. OU's offered Connor Arant, the 2028 tight end from Bixby. They love him. They want to get him. He's getting offers from everybody. So, that's two Bixby kids right there that OU badly wants. From that perspective, I think, with Penny becoming a Sooner down the road, I think OU will have their shot at Bixby kids that they want.
Biggie, if you're still in here, let's ask your question. He says, "What you got on Titus Hawk, Mr. Mason?"
So the rub on Titus Hawk seems to be that his dad played baseball at OSU. So there's some OSU legacy stuff there. And Titus wants to play baseball in college as well as football. So Skip Johnson hasn't offered him in baseball yet. So they haven't had that dual sport discussion yet. And I guess there's probably some hesitancy in can he put on the weight to play the tight end position, which is his natural position in college in football, and still be the guy that they want for baseball.
Yeah.
So, and wouldn't shock me if this Blair situation doesn't have some people being a little antsy about the whole two sport thing with baseball. For those that don't know, Porter Moser just lost a player to baseball, who was the guy had committed to play both sports, then got on campus, and I think realized that baseball was his better path.
Yeah.
So, so that's what with Titus Hawk. The other thing is OU's making a big push for tight end Seneca Driver from Kentucky, who's already been on OU's campus for a game. He's 6'7", 235, 240.
What year is he?
He's 2027.
Got you.
He's got very much Jermaine Gresham kind of feel to him in terms of his game. And maybe OU's thinking, well, we need to see where we are with him. OU definitely wants Ben Kolar at tight end from Norman North. He just got hurt, so his year is over, but he's had a big junior year.
Mm-hmm.
True Okie, can you pull up what True Okie says? Sorry, the comment about Titus that we were talking about below it. Yeah. True Okie, I don't know anything about his dad. How big is he? So, I just don't know if he's able to if he answer back and like a guest on about that. I know nothing about his dad. So from that perspective, so I think it's a question of how does that make that? How do you make that fit? The two sport thing in basketball and baseball is more difficult than football. That's certainly true. But James Nesta, I think, has perhaps decided to go with football over baseball. Because I think he prefers football as a sport, and he's doing well at linebacker. So it's that's the Hawk thing. If it was just football, I think we'd be clearer about where things are going. But with the baseball factor in it, it's muddying the recruiting waters a little bit.
Let's go back to True Okie's question. If you if you guys mind, what is holding up or preventing the pedicure from flipping?
I think it's the check that Wisconsin offered him from the very beginning to sign with him, to choose him.
Gotta be some crazy money, right?
Yeah,
crazy money going to catch 10 balls.
To go catch 10 balls and freeze your ass off in Wisco for and block. So you're asking. We've got Kyle Dupuis asking about Braylon Calais. Kyle, I know nothing about him. I've just pulled up his rankings. He's obviously highly ranked by 247 and ESPN. He's a good-looking wide receiver. I just don't know anything about him. The wide receiver room is a little... We've got the verbal from Damare DeZorn, who's having a huge junior year. But after that, things are a little all over the place in terms of wide receiver recruiting. I think OU's going to make a big push for Trey Moore from, I think, the sort of Pflugerville area. I think that's where he's from. And he's Eric Moore's kid. So he's got some heavy connections with the Sooners. But yeah, overall, Kyle, I'm not hearing anything with him and the Sooners, at least not yet. So Biggie's asking, are we going to try and get to Zane Rowe? Zane's when Zane makes his final decision, OU will be a hat on the table, and he will have a very hard time not recommitting to Chavis. He loves Miguel Chavis. They are super tight, and defensive end. If you're a recruit out there, I'm not sure other than D tackle, there's a position that OU has more juice right now with kids in the high school game. So I'd be stunned. Now, does Texas Tech make one of their you know showcase special deals for Zane Rowe like they did for Jalen Brewster? Possibly, I don't know. But OU's definitely in that battle. Definitely going to have when it's decision time for Zane Rowe. Expect OU to be a serious player there, unless the only thing I think stopping OU would be, like I said, Tech dropping a whole bunch of money. So we'll see soon the Cowboys. It could be A&M too. I mean, OU is recruiting these guys. Those are the A&M's having a great year. They're getting a lot of attention from kids. So Cooper Witten, speaking of A&M, is probably right now an Oklahoma versus Texas A&M battle. How that shakes out in the end, I don't know. I think Witten obviously has a lot of connections to OU. He started with OU with a longer relationship. OU has more linebacker folks that he's been connected with longer. DeMarco Murray is really good friends with his dad. I don't think you can discount that. And Norman's closer than College Station with his dad coaching most Friday nights, and then being able to come to Norman. At least half of his games easily come up to Norman. So I like where OU is with Cooper Witten long term. A&M's got a lot of buzz right now. They're undefeated. They're old singing, old dancing. So they're making a lot of noise with a lot of recruits. Let's see how the end of the season pans out and see where OU is. But they're obviously not going to lose. I mean, their entire staff is recruiting Cooper Witten. So they're not going to, Brent's not going to go down without swinging for this kid, because at will linebacker, Cowboys, not even Texas people think he's going to end up at Texas. You got to come with some better shit than that. That's just weak. So, he's a perfect fit for OU at will linebacker. So we'll see how things shake out. But I think it's an A&M OU battle. I just like where OU has the deeper connections to him, and this is not going to be an NIL race, really. His dad made God knows how much money playing tight end for the Cowboys. So I don't see that. I don't see it heading in that direction.
All right. Look, people, we're on here for a good time, not a long time. Been 43 minutes. Chris Mason, I think it's time for us to get up out of here, man.
No problem, Chris. Thanks, everyone, for asking your questions and for attending, as always.
Yeah. 26, 27, a little bit of 28. Yeah, we hit on all cylinders. So definitely like, subscribe, share this video, do all those different things, like on both channels and subscribe to both channels. You got the Horns Down podcast and Sooners 360. We'll be back Thursday with our preview for the OU Alabama game, which I do feel that we will be pretty successful, folks. But we'll get to that in due time, and we'll